Every success begins with finding the right people. A seemingly simple statement, yet in a world full of wrong choices, it's a terrifying reminder. Perhaps no one was ever truly taught how to choose people. We learn how to manage, strategize, analyze markets, but rarely do we learn how to recognize who can truly help us create something great. The book, Who? The A Method for Hiring by Geoff Smart and Randy Street is a journey straight into that blind spot. It's not just about recruitment, it's about the art of discerning people and putting the right ones in the right place, something every leader, whether in business, education, or life, must confront. The work opens with a familiar paradox. Most organizations fail not because they lack ideas, but because they choose the wrong people to execute those ideas. Every wrong hiring decision is a domino chain collapsing money, time, morale, culture. Everything disintegrates because of one word: WHO. The book doesn't sugarcoat or use smooth management slogans. It's a practical guide distilled from over 1,300 interviews with top global leaders. Instead of asking what to do to succeed, the book reverses the question: who will make it succeed? That question fundamentally changes how we view organizations, and it also changes how we view ourselves. Because at the deepest level, hiring isn't just about finding someone for a job, it's an act of identifying human nature. A company choosing asterisk who is defining itself by that very person. In a world where competence is exaggerated and true character obscured, WHO acts like a flat mirror. It forces readers to re-examine every decision. How many times have we chosen someone simply out of personal feeling? How many times have we confused intelligence with suitability or promises with actions? Perhaps the biggest question the book poses isn't just for recruiters, but for everyone living in a world brimming with opportunities. Are we choosing the right people to navigate this life with us in our careers, in our relationships, and even within ourselves? Every story of business success or failure begins with people. Some believe the biggest mistake is a poor strategy, an outdated product, or a shrinking market. But the naked truth is harsher. What destroys an organization fastest isn't what, but who. Not the idea, but the person executing it. Not the plan, but the hand steering it. Back then, I met Nate Thompson, a calm-looking CEO who ran a data storage company called Spectralogic. He once had it all: vision, a good product, a booming market. But whenever I asked about his vacation, he'd just give a wry smile. He couldn't leave the office, not even for a few days. Why? Because the people he hired were slowly dragging him down. Thompson recounted how he interviewed meticulously, read stacks of resumes, spent hours talking to candidates, yet still made wrong choices. Some couldn't perform, others betrayed trust. One even falsified numbers on the commission sheet to embezzle over $90,000. He didn't just lose money, he lost his freedom, even his children's childhood, having to take crisis calls from the slopes of VO Peak. I realized the WHO problem isn't just a fault in the hiring system, it's a disease spreading throughout the entire organizational body. The wrong people force you to do their work, suffocating you, slowing everything down, distorting it, and eventually causing collapse. It's the most common ailment, practically in the bloodstream of every business. We at GH Smart began to research it. We didn't just observe, we delved deep, gathered statistics, interviewed, and dissected every wrong decision. Over decades, we repeatedly saw a pattern. People fail not from a lack of competence, but from a lack of ability to discern character. I've witnessed great leaders still being deceived. They trusted their gut feelings, a handshake, a few minutes of good chemistry over lunch. They thought they were reading human psychology, but in reality, they were only seeing their own reflection. They called it intuition, I call it illusion. I once asked a CEO why he mistakenly hired someone once praised as a genius. He looked me straight in the eye, sighed. I hired the resume, not the real person. That answer was like a dagger piercing through the beautiful facade of the entire recruitment industry. We live in an era where most personnel decisions are made based on methods I call voodoo hiring, a sort of magical charm. People look at a resume, ask a few vague questions, then make a decision as if casting lots. They believe a good gut feeling is a sign of talent, that feeling a connection is enough. And then they're surprised when their team collapses. Some people act like art critics, believing a quick glance is enough to feel the candidate. Others are like sponges, having a dozen people interview one candidate and then stitching together chaotic opinions into a decision. Some play the prosecutor, firing off tricky trap questions as if in an intellectual duel. Others turn the interview into a flirtation, talking incessantly to impress the candidate, forgetting to evaluate them. All these types share one thing: they think they're in control, but they're actually leaving it to chance. I've met people who believe in bizarre challenges, throwing a piece of paper on the floor to see if the candidate picks it up, or asking, "If you were an animal, what would you be?" They think they're testing personality, but in reality, they're only testing their own patience. Some rely on psychological tests. Some like to ask, "Suppose you encounter a conflict, what would you do?" All these answers sound plausible and useless. The stark truth is, people are not as easy to read as we imagine. They can learn to say the right things, to act as if they are the ideal prototype. And you, in your hurried need for someone, easily fall for it. Meanwhile, the cost of one wrong hire can be 15 times the basic salary. One bad employee can cause dozens of good ones to leave. An engineer once told me, "Management is easy if you don't have to manage people." That statement sounds humorous, but it's the most accurate summary of every organization. We think we're running a machine, but we're actually steering a collective of souls, full of complexity, pride, and fragility. And if you don't choose the right people, every gear will seize up. That's when I understood. To cure the WHO problem, we cannot rely on feelings, and certainly not on luck. We need a system, a map, a repeatable, measurable way to assess people that keeps us from falling into the maze of wrong choices. I call it the A method, the method for choosing the right people. And it all begins with something seemingly simple, yet most often overlooked: a blueprint called the scorecard. Every hiring mistake stems from the same place. People believe in their own illusions. They think they have the ability to see through others, that a 5-minute conversation is enough to know who's suitable. But the truth is, most of the people who are most confident in reading others are precisely those who fail the most. I've seen hundreds of managers confidently walk into an interview as if entering a public speaking competition. They smile, shake hands firmly, throw out seemingly profound questions that never touch the essence. They are performing a ritual, not conducting science. Some, like art critics, trust their intuition that this person has potential. But intuition cannot distinguish between genuine and fake, much like a faint light can't illuminate a forged painting. Others are like sponges, having an entire team interview a candidate and then piecing together a collective decision. The result is 6 people asking about the candidate's paragliding hobby, then concluding, "He seems interesting." But interesting never equates to effective. Some prefer to play the prosecutor, harassing candidates with trick questions. Why is a manhole cover round? How would you handle being stuck on a desert island? They think they're testing intelligence, but they overlook something more crucial: ethics, perseverance, and the ability to perform actual work. Others transform into infatuated lovers, passionately talking about their company, persuading candidates as if selling illusions. Ultimately, they forget to evaluate, leaving only a glamorous, one-sided conversation. Then there are those who enjoy practical jokes, throwing paper, pretending to be flustered to observe reactions. These tricks might make the interview more lively, but they never reveal true character. Some truths only emerge when people act, not when subjected to artificial challenges. Another type is the animal lover, who enjoys asking meaningless questions like, "If you were an animal, what would you choose?" They believe the answer will reveal the candidate's soul. In reality, it only reveals the interviewer's idleness. And still others like to chat, turning the interview into a weather discussion. Some rely on personality tests. Some ask hypothetical questions like, "If you encounter conflict, what would you do?" As if anyone would honestly reply, "I'll scream and blame others." All these types of voodoo hiring share a common root: laziness disguised as sophistication. People don't want to confront the complexity of human psychology, so they create rituals to reassure themselves that they've done it right. I've seen many businesses fail miserably simply by believing in these rituals. Each time they hire the wrong person, they lose not just money, but the fighting spirit of their team. One wrong employee can trigger a chain of errors. And if that wrong person sits in a leadership position, the losses can multiply 10, even 100-fold. We once calculated that a single wrong hire costs a company, on average, 15 times that person's basic salary. That means if an employee is paid $100,000, that mistake can dissipate $1 million, multiplied 10 times in a year. You'll see an organization can bleed $15 million just from a lack of discipline in choosing people. But the real question isn't why wrong, but how to be right. We began to realize companies that win big don't do so because they have superior strategies, but because they hire people who can execute those strategies with near-perfect precision. They aren't looking for good employees, they're looking for A players. People with a 90% chance of achieving objectives that only 10% of others can. These aren't flashy stars, but individuals who are both talented and aligned with the organization's culture. They are the ones who, when given a task, will say, "I've got this," and make you forget that the task was ever a problem. A players don't need supervision, they create order from chaos. I remember Ken Griffin, the founder of Citadel, one of the world's greatest investment funds. He started with $4 million from friends and family and turned it into over $20 billion. Ken wasn't just good at investing, he also had a knack for reading people. When interviewing a seemingly perfect candidate, he asked, "When you encountered a difficult boss, what did you do?" The person replied, "I emailed everyone, telling them my boss was incompetent." Ken smiled and closed the resume. That one answer saved him from a disaster worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Steve Schwarzman of Blackstone also told me that his success in investing wasn't in financial strategy, but in 3 factors: buying right, having an A-player team, and selling right. The difference between an A-grade CEO and a B-grade CEO can create a 10x difference in profits. These leaders understand that in business, you are who you hire. If you hire mediocre people, your organization will gradually become mediocre. If you hire people better than yourself, you will be elevated with them. If you hire the wrong people, you are paying for your own failure. We spent over 13 years testing, refining, and perfecting a method to help leaders escape that maze. This method consists of 4 steps: scorecard, source, select, and sell. It's simple, but it demands absolute discipline and honesty. And if done correctly, it will completely change how you view people. Everything begins with a seemingly obvious question. Do you truly know who asterisk you're looking for? Most recruiters would answer, of course. But when asked deeply, they merely repeat vague descriptions. Dynamic, team player, adaptable. Those words are as empty as slogans. You cannot build a house without a blueprint, just as you cannot hire without a scorecard. The scorecard is that blueprint. It's a map that clearly defines what success looks like for each position. It specifies duties, objectives, and required qualities. Not eloquent phrases, but measurable criteria. I once witnessed a major financial company almost hire the wrong person for a VP of strategic planning role. The manager thought they needed someone meticulous and good at planning, while his boss wanted someone with vision to create new strategies. 2 completely opposite directions, yet no one realized it until they sat down to debate. They were about to sign a contract with the wrong person simply because they had never agreed on what they actually needed. The scorecard was born to end this ambiguity. It starts by defining the asterisk mission asterisk the core objective, then moves to outcomes asterisk the specific results to be achieved, and finally competencies asterisk the skills, behaviors, and cultural fit. And once you have that blueprint in hand, you'll no longer have to choose people in the dark. When I first introduced the scorecard concept to a group of leaders, they chuckled. One said, "We already have job descriptions. Why do we need more?" I replied, "That's not a description, that's a prayer." A scorecard isn't about what you want people to do, it's about the asterisk results you want them to achieve. It doesn't describe the job, it defines success. Imagine you're building a house. No one gives a builder a list. Nail wood, saw wood, paint walls. They give him a blueprint with dimensions, shapes, colors, and the position of every brick. The scorecard is that blueprint for people. I once observed a meeting between 2 directors at a financial company. The first said that the VP of strategy position needed someone good at synthesizing data. The other cut in, "No, we need someone who can see the future, create new strategies." They looked at each other, silent. They almost hired the wrong person because they hadn't clearly defined what they needed. A correct scorecard can save an entire company from a bad decision. A scorecard begins with the mission asterisk. This core task is a succinct summary of the position's reason for existence. No circumlocution, no obscure jargon. A single line should make everyone immediately understand what this person is meant to do. For example, instead of writing, "Optimize shareholder value through enhancing multi-channel communication efficiency," write, "Expand market share by helping customers recognize product value." Short and clear, the mission must be timely. Each stage of a business's development requires a different type of person. Coca-Cola once needed a culture-changing leader, not a system manager. General Electric once needed a skilled operator, not a strategic dreamer. There's no such thing as an all-around perfect person, only the right person at the right time. After defining the mission, we need the asterisk outcomes asterisk. Specific results to be achieved. Don't write increase sales. Write increase revenue from $25 million to $50 million in 3 years. Don't say build a strong brand. Say achieve 70% brand recognition among target customers by the end of the 2nd year. Numbers force us to face reality. They turn dreams into commitments. Players like clear goals. They see the finish line, measure progress, and are excited by challenges. Meanwhile, B and C players will be afraid, avoid, or make excuses. Setting the right outcomes also serves as an automatic filter. Those who are not capable enough will withdraw before they even start. Once defined, we need to draw the final part of the scorecard: competencies and behaviors asterisk. This is the most subtle part because it's not just about skills, it also reflects the organization's culture. We once studied over 300 CEOs to find the qualities that make people successful. The list narrowed down to 10 points: effectiveness, honesty, organizational skills, assertiveness, commitment, intelligence, analytical ability, attention to detail, persistence, and proactivity. When you meet someone who embodies all 10 of these, you'll immediately know you're talking to someone special. However, each company has its own soul. So, in addition to these universal competencies, you must also define cultural values. Some places prioritize creativity, others value discipline, some honor humility. If culture is the air, then competency is how each person breathes within it. I remember Bill Johnson at He's telling me, chemistry is always important. If I don't click with someone, it's best to move on. After that, I look at commitment, learnability, ego control, and intellect. He had a simple rule: if someone is always thinking about their next position rather than their current job, they will fail. Evaluating competence is also evaluating character. Many companies have paid dearly for hiring talented people who were a poor cultural fit. An excellent but arrogant salesperson can destroy an entire team. I once saw a brave female executive fire her best salesperson because he was rude and belittled others. The result was an immediate shift in the team's atmosphere. I also remember the story of Nudos and Company. They once hired a CEO from a large company, believing experience was enough. He was slow, avoided decisions, and exhausted everyone. The company lost direction. Founder Aaron Kennedy had to fire him, knowing it was a painful decision. They learned that talent couldn't save a cultural mismatch. And then, when a new CEO, who understood the value of respect and quick action, took over, the company revived, revenue increased, and morale returned. Just changing one person changed the entire system's color. The scorecard helps you see this before it's too late. It forces you to clearly define your culture, turning vague values into specific criteria. A company that prioritizes collaboration will list respect for others as a mandatory requirement. A company that puts customers first will list proactively solving customer problems. At Centerbridge Partners, when they raised their first $3 billion fund, over 90% of the people they hired were A players. Their secret wasn't money but the scorecard. They clearly stated that each investment professional must build trust with the teams they invest with. A famous candidate, despite being extremely intelligent, was rejected because he had been reprimanded for offending partners. They understood that one wrong cultural fit could ruin their shared dream. The scorecard isn't just a hiring tool, it's a bridge between strategy and action. It helps translate plans into personal responsibility from the CEO to the employees. Everyone can look at their scorecard and know, what do I need to do to keep the company on track? And above all, it creates a common language. When everyone looks at that blueprint together, no one argues about what success means anymore. I once asked a room full of executives, how many of you here have written goals for each of your employees? Only 10% raised their hands. I understood why many organizations stray off course. They lack a map. The scorecard is that map. It tells you where you are, where you need to go, and who will take you there. It's a promise to yourself that from now on, you will no longer let chance decide who accompanies you. Every organization believes that hiring is HR's job. But true leaders know that finding talent is a personal responsibility, the most crucial part of their leadership mission. Because without the right people, no strategy can come to fruition. Don't wait to hire, always be sourcing. That's the unwavering principle I learned after hundreds of conversations with the world's most successful people. They don't hire when needed, they build a pipeline of talent around them long beforehand. Patrick Ryan of the Aon Group says he never goes to dinner or conferences just to socialize. For him, every meeting is an opportunity to discover talent. He asks friends, partners, even competitors, "Who is the best person you've ever worked with that I should meet?" That question became a habit, and when he needed someone, the list was ready. Selim Basso, CEO of Midlibby, considers talent scouting a daily pleasure. He calls himself an A-player hunter and says, "I don't go fishing, I go human fishing." He makes calls, chats, and saves their names on a private list. Whenever his company expands, he doesn't lose a single day searching for candidates because he has an entire living network already prepared. Paul Tudor Jones, founder of the Tudor Investment Fund, has a rule: every week he must meet at least 2 new people whom someone believes are talented. No interviews, no job offers, just conversation. He observes how they think, how they talk about failure. He doesn't look for people who are available, he looks for people who are on fire. That's the common thread among top leaders. They don't wait for HR to send resumes. They create a candidate pipeline like the lifeblood sustaining the company's future. Every morning, they dedicate time not to reports, but to people. They ask their assistants, "Who talented should we meet this week?" They text friends, "Who's shining that I should know?" And they meticulously take notes. A quality candidate pool is the lifeline of every organization. It cannot be pumped in from outside in a moment. It is nurtured with time, observation, and patience. A great company not only has a good strategy, but also the ability to name the right person to appear at the right time. I once met a young CEO who complained that it took him 3 months to find a marketing director. I asked, "What were you doing for 3 months before you started hiring?" He was silent, because during those 3 months, he only looked when he already had a vacancy, never preparing in advance. When you only look for people when you need them, you'll always be behind. Most organizations hire in a firefighting mode. When someone leaves, they rush to post a job. The result is they have to choose from those who are currently available, not the best ones. It's like picking a chef for a 5-star restaurant from people who just lost their jobs. That's why sourcing talent is the second step in the A method. But in reality, it must happen all the time, without a schedule, without a season. It's a continuous action, like breathing. Those who understand this often set personal quotas: how many new talents to meet each month, by what percentage to expand their network each year. They turn it into a cultural habit. In meetings, they don't just talk about revenue targets, but also ask each other, "Who's the best person you met this month?" A company I once consulted for had a simple yet powerful policy: every manager must have a list of at least 10 potential candidates for their position. They called it the Golden Talent Book. Every quarter, the list was updated, with notes on who was ready, who needed tracking, who to approach. As a result, when someone left, they simply opened the book, made a call, and the position was filled in a few days. Someone asked me, "How do you build this pipeline?" I said, "Start with the right question. Don't ask, 'Is anyone looking for a job?' Ask, 'Who is the most excellent person you've ever known?'" The second question makes people think deeper, and you'll get names no one posts online. Everyone likes to be asked about people they admire. And when you find such a person, don't rush to hire. Stay in touch, send congratulatory messages when they get promoted, send well wishes when they change companies. Build relationships before you need them, so when you truly have an opportunity, your call won't be seen as a sales pitch, but as an invitation from a trusted friend. Great companies don't have a hiring department, they have a hiring asterisk culture. Every employee becomes a referrer. They take pride in helping the company find good people. They understand that every good person brought in not only brings competence, but also the belief that we are heading in the right direction. Therefore, building a talent pipeline isn't a campaign, it's a habit. It requires discipline and proactivity. A true leader always has 3 names in mind for positions they don't even need yet. That's the mark of someone with foresight. And when that flow is constantly moving, you'll never be caught off guard by any changes. The market can shift, plans can reverse, but you won't scramble to find people because you've already prepared those who can navigate the waves with you. At that very moment, your organization begins to have its own rhythm, stable, confident, and full of energy. And you, as the leader, will deeply understand a simple truth. Every success is a human story. I've witnessed countless interviews conducted like a vague ritual, where the interviewer thinks they're being highly professional, and the candidate just needs to play their part skillfully. They leave the room feeling it was a great fit. Then a few months later, both sides realize they've wasted their time. An interview is not a performance, it's a process of seeking the truth. And to find that truth, we need a structured system. A series of questions designed not to test intelligence, but to illuminate true character, competence, and behavior. These are the 4 interviews in the A method, where emotions are set aside, giving way to clarity and discipline. The first is the screening interview ****. It only lasts 20 to 30 minutes but is enough to eliminate unsuitable candidates. Just 4 questions. What do you do? What are you best at? What are you not good at? And what are you looking for in your next role? It sounds simple, but the way they answer reveals almost their entire character. An honest person will speak directly about their weaknesses. An evasive person will beat around the bush. And the right person will show you the connection between their abilities, aspirations, and values. The goal of this step is to clean the candidate flow, keeping only those who can advance further. Once the list is narrowed, you move to the second interview, the WHO interview ****. This is the soul of the entire method, often lasting 1.5 to 3 hours. It's like a journey upstream through the candidate's entire career. You go through each stage, each job, asking the same series of 5 questions. What were you hired to do? What were your biggest accomplishments? What failures do you regret? Who was your direct boss? And what do you think they would say about you if I asked them? And finally, why did you leave? If you listen long enough, you'll uncover a startling pattern. People repeat themselves. Past behavioral patterns, how they handled failures, how they talked about others, how they took responsibility, all are predictors of the future. You don't need a prophet, you just need to listen deeply enough. Throughout this interview, you must maintain the mindset of a patient observer. Don't judge, just ask, what happened next? Why? What was the outcome? Each time they speak vaguely, you gently delve deeper. Specifically, what did you do differently from others? These follow-up questions will strip away the camouflage, revealing their true nature. After completing the WHO interview, you have the full picture, but you still need a closer look. That's when you move to the focused interview ****. It's like a microscope, magnifying the most crucial parts of the scorecard. For example, if the position you're hiring for is VP of Sales, the scorecard might list 4 clear objectives. Increase domestic revenue from $500 million to $600 million. Maintain gross profit margin above 45%. Build a sales team where 90% are A players. And create a business strategy approved by the CEO in the annual planning cycle. You also identify 6 key competencies: assertiveness, persistence, ability to hire A players, ability to maintain team discipline, commitment, and openness to feedback. This is the backbone of the focused interview. Each member of the interviewing team will be responsible for a specific part of the scorecard. The first person asks about revenue growth and cost management objectives. The second asks about team building and how they create A players. The third focuses on strategy, listening skills, and feedback. Each person only needs 45 to 60 minutes, but combined, you get a 3-dimensional view of the candidate, from results and competencies to how they create impact. And finally, the reference interview ****. This is not a social call, but the ultimate verification step. You select 7 people who have worked directly with the candidate, including former bosses, colleagues, and subordinates, then ask the candidate to arrange the calls. This helps you bypass secretaries or HR departments. In each conversation, you ask about 4 points: working context, what that person did best, what they did worst, and would you rehire that person? The key isn't the praise, but the hesitation in their voice. When someone pauses before answering, pay attention. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. These interviews don't require cleverness, just honesty. You're not looking for a perfect person, you're looking for a real person, and real people always have cracks. What's scary is someone who shows you no cracks at all. Some people ask me, are these 4 interviews too many? I reply, only if you want to make the wrong choice. Each step in the process is like a water filter. The more layers you pass through, the closer you get to pure water. And when you find the right person, the feeling is very clear, not intuition, but evidence. The emotion drawn from the entire process isn't excitement, but reassurance. You know you haven't overlooked anything, haven't deluded yourself. You look at the data, the notes, and realize every piece fits. That's when you are truly ready to make a decision, not with your heart, but with the clear-headedness of someone who has seen through the essence of human nature through thousands of conversations. After hours of interviews, notes piled thick on the table, each candidate a story, a tapestry of successes and failures. But at this point, what matters is no longer what they said, but what you understood from it. Making a hiring decision is the moment most susceptible to emotions. Many, exhausted by the interview process, just want to end it with a quick choice. They say, "This person seems okay," then convince themselves it's intuition. But intuition is not a method, it's the voice of fatigue. To avoid this, I always revert to the only trustworthy tool, the scorecard. Every comment, every impression must be referenced against this blueprint. If there's no point in the scorecard, there's no reason to hire. That is the principle. Reread each objective, each competency in the blueprint and ask, does this person have concrete evidence that they achieved this? If the answer is yes, record the proof. If not, don't sugarcoat it with hope. Hope is a sedative in recruitment. After comparing, I assign a grade to each candidate, not with numbers, but with A, B, or C, and A is someone who is an absolute fit for the scorecard, with a 90% chance of achieving the objectives. A B is someone who needs training or adjustment. They might be good but not ready. A C is someone who is not suitable, no matter how likable they seem. And here, a cruel but true rule: one B player will cost you 2 A players. They are not bad enough to fire, but not good enough to trust. They dilute standards, causing good people to lower their performance. Just one B in a team reduces productivity and weakens morale. Therefore, I always advise leaders, if you don't have an A, keep looking. Don't fear a shortage of people, fear the wrong people. A shortage can be temporarily mitigated. The wrong people will drag down the entire system. I once saw a company lose more than a year's worth of revenue just by keeping a B-grade sales director who always blamed the market instead of taking action. They only recovered when they dared to replace him. When there are multiple A-player candidates, the choice is no longer about right or wrong, but about who is the best fit for the current stage. At this point, 2 factors need consideration: skill and will. Skills can be learned, but will cannot. You can teach someone how to use new software, but you cannot teach them long condemn, integrity, or the spirit to see things through. If you must choose the person with stronger will. Because will is self-generating energy, while skills are borrowed energy. Once you've chosen the person, don't rush to declare victory. The next step, selling the position, is even more important than choosing, because A players always have many options, and they will only accept if they believe your company is truly worthy. Many think recruitment ends when the candidate agrees. Wrong. That's when the persuasion process begins. You're not selling a job, you're selling a journey, a mission, an opportunity for them to become a better version of themselves. 4 factors make A players agree to join: the job, the boss, the team, and the rewards. The job must be a genuine challenge, not a place where they stagnate. The boss must be someone they want to learn from. The team must be strong enough for them to believe they will grow. And the rewards aren't just money, but recognition and long-term development opportunities. I remember a CEO recounting that when he invited an outstanding candidate to work, that person hesitated because they were in a stable position. The CEO didn't say much. He just talked about a project that, if successful, would change the entire industry. He said, "You can choose safety, or you can choose to leave a mark." The person accepted. People are not persuaded by salary, but by meaning. Ultimately, every decision boils down to one thing: who will you choose to navigate the hardest paths with you? You don't need the best person in the world, you need the best fit for your asterisk mission. And once you have them, don't forget this: hiring the right people is just the beginning, keeping them is the art. So, respect them, listen to them, and continuously help them shine. A properly nurtured A player will create 10 more A players. Thus, the circle is complete, from defining the right job, sourcing the right people, selecting the right people, to making them stay and thrive. That is the core of every sustainable organization. You can change products, strategies, or markets, but if you can change the people, the asterisk right people, you will change the entire destiny of the company. And that is why I say, every success begins with WHO. Sometimes, all recruitment ends not because you chose the wrong person, but because you didn't know how to make the right person asterisk want asterisk to join. Many leaders lose outstanding candidates just because they forget that in this game, the interviewer is also being interviewed. In this final stage, what's most needed is no longer evaluation skills, but the art of persuasion, not by words, but by touching on what truly matters to people. After years of observing the best at recruiting talent, I realized an unwavering rule: every decision to commit revolves around 5 things: fit, family, freedom, fortune, and fun. Fit is suitability. It's the soul of the relationship between a person and their work. No one wants to enter a place where they feel forced to conform. Fit doesn't come from saying, "We're a good match," but from showing them how the company's path intersects with their own journey. Tell them where you're going, what this organization believes in, and why that position is a crucial connection between the big vision and their abilities. A person only feels persuaded when they see their significance in the larger picture. When talking to candidates, I often don't start with a job description but with a question: what makes you feel most alive in your work? That question opens up their world, their joys, fears, limitations yet to be overcome. From there, I talk about our culture, not to advertise but to juxtapose. If they see themselves in it, you don't need to sell anything more. Family is something many overlook but carries the most weight. When someone changes jobs, they don't go alone, they bring along an entire small ecosystem: their spouse, children, parents, even family habits. If you don't care about that, they'll choose somewhere else. Good recruiters don't just talk to the candidate, they talk to the candidate's entire family. They ensure this transition isn't a shock but a safe step forward. Some even invite the candidate's spouse to visit the workplace, chat with the team, feel the real energy. You're not just selling a job, you're selling peace of mind. Freedom is what makes the best people open up. They don't need someone cracking the whip, they need space to create value. Let them know they have freedom. I always tell managers this: not anarchic freedom, but freedom with trust. Show them that you believe in their growth. Tell real stories, like how a leader once told their candidate, "I won't stand behind you, I'll stand beside you." Talented people aren't afraid of responsibility, they're only afraid of being controlled. I once had a senior female candidate ask me if she could choose her own working methods. I smiled and said, "If I didn't trust your way of working, I wouldn't have invited you here." That's the simplest way to sell freedom: through trust. Freedom cannot be just talk, it must be felt through every gesture of the leader. Fortune, to many, this sounds pragmatic, but no one wants their value underestimated. Money isn't the only motivator, but it is a symbol of recognition. Talented people don't demand high salaries just out of greed, they do so to gauge respect. Don't be afraid to talk about numbers, but speak with facts, not promises. Show them the company's growth, the position's potential, a transparent bonus system. A promise of opportunity always carries more power than a blank check. I once saw a young founder persuade a seasoned expert by offering equity instead of a high salary. He said, "I can't pay much right now, but I can build this with you to make it worth 10 times more." The other person accepted, not for the money, but for the expanded meaning of fortune, shared prosperity instead of personal gain. And finally, fun it seems small, but it's what keeps people around the longest. Fun isn't just laughter in the office, but the feeling of being oneself every day at work. Where there's fun, there's life. You can create fun by allowing everyone to express their individuality through honest conversations, through connecting moments unrelated to work. Fun is evidence of a healthy organization. If you deeply understand these 5 factors, you won't need to persuade anyone. You just need to speak the truth. Talented people recognize sincerity faster than any advertisement. What they need isn't a benefits package, but an invitation to an impactful journey. Many recruiters ask me, "When should I start selling?" The answer is right when you begin sourcing. Every meeting, every email, every conversation is a part of that process. Selling isn't closing a deal, it's building trust. And don't forget, in every talent transaction, the person being sold the most isn't the company, but you. They observe how you listen, how you answer, how you treat others. If you are someone they want to learn from, you've won half the game. If selling an opportunity to talented people is an art, then perseverance is its discipline. Many companies think they've closed the deal when a candidate accepts, but in reality, the selling process only ends when that person truly walks through the door and stays. That's why I talk about 5 waves of selling, not just a single persuasion, but 5 stages that must be carefully nurtured, like the 5 heartbeats of a single body. The first wave begins as soon as you start sourcing. In every meeting, every conversation, plant an image of your company in others' minds not through advertising, but through genuine spirit. Talented people will always remember their first impression when they hear you talk about the work you do. If your energy is dull, they won't believe that what you represent is worthy of trust. Recruitment doesn't start with a vacant position, but with the first impression. The second wave occurs during the interview. This isn't just when you evaluate them, but when they evaluate you. Every question, every way of listening sends a message about the organizational culture. When you respect their silence, they understand you are a good listener. When you answer frankly, they see you as honest. You are selling trust through your own behavior. The third wave appears between the offer and acceptance. This period is the most fragile point in the entire process. Many candidates are caught between two choices, surrounded by other offers, by family hesitations. They don't need another contract. They need more reasons to believe they are choosing correctly. This is when you must revisit the 5Fs, see what genuinely concerns them, and address it with empathy. If they worry about family, meet their loved ones. If they fear losing freedom, give them a chance to speak directly with the team they will lead. A sincere call at this moment is worth more than a large compensation package. The fourth wave, between their acceptance and their first day of work, is a deadly void. Many change their minds in silence because they don't feel cared for. Don't let them disappear before they even show up. Send welcome messages, share what's happening in the company, tell fun stories, invite them to an informal gathering. Give them the feeling that they already belong here even before signing the employment contract. And then the final wave, the first 100 days. This is the crucial stage that determines whether they stay. If you promised fit, help them truly integrate. If you talked about freedom, give them autonomy. If you mentioned fortune, prove it with concrete actions. If you spoke of fun, let them see that joy is not just a slogan. The first 100 days are when the company proves that everything said was true. Each of these waves requires a specific plan. No one can remember every detail. So, create a personalized selling map for each candidate. Clearly note what they value most among the 5Fs, who influences their decision, what makes them anxious. From there, schedule approaches, follow-ups, and maintain contact until they are completely at ease. Selling talent is a process of building relationships, not a transaction. I once witnessed a leader negotiate for 3 months with a senior candidate. The person initially declined, but he didn't give up. He spent time listening, asking about their family, sharing the company's vision, and never once pushed. Weeks later, the candidate called back, saying he was persuaded not by a better offer, but by the feeling of being respected. Perseverance isn't about coercion, it's about steadfast belief that this person is worth waiting for. And sometimes, perseverance is knowing when to stop. If you realize that the person doesn't fit the fit or culture, don't try to keep them just because you've invested a lot of time. Selling the right people also means knowing not to sell to the wrong people. Those who do this job well often resemble storytellers. They don't ramble, they let others see themselves in the story. They don't say, "Come join us." They say, "Let's create this together." When your story resonates with their aspirations, selling becomes natural. And remember, no one believes what you say if you don't live by it. If you say the company values freedom but you micromanage every detail, your words will be meaningless. If you say, "Here we have fun," but you yourself can't genuinely smile, they will immediately notice. Talented people have a very sensitive radar for pretense. Ultimately, never view selling as a trick. It's an act of expressing love for your organization. When you truly believe that what you're building is a worthwhile journey, you don't need to convince anyone. You just need to recount that belief in the most ordinary voice, and talented people will immediately recognize it. Selling isn't about winning a negotiation. It's about starting a win-win relationship. I once asked an executive who had spent 3 decades running dozens of large companies what made him more successful than most others. He didn't talk about strategy, technology, or capital investment. He simply replied, "I'm better at choosing people than they are." Sounds simple, but that's the essence of all success. Everything you do, every strategy you devise, is ultimately executed by people. If you choose the wrong people, even the best strategy will be distorted. If you choose the right people, even a mediocre plan can become a miracle. This is the greatest opportunity for anyone in leadership, the chance to change an organization's destiny by changing the people within. We have come through a long journey, from defining what's needed, to sourcing who, to selecting how, to making them agree. Now it's time to reflect and understand the true meaning of it all. Every success begins with WHO. I have spoken with over 400 top leaders worldwide, those who run corporations, investment funds, educational institutions, nonprofits. All of them say the same thing: talent accounts for more than half of the success equation, strategy accounts for the rest. What's out there, the market, technology, luck, all changes. But if you have the right people, you can adapt to any change. A leader at Blackstone once shared, "Before, I spent 90% of my time on strategy and 10% on people. Now I do the opposite, and the result is increased productivity, changed team morale, and everything runs smoother." Shifting the focus from tasks to people always creates a turning point. Many managers still believe that hiring is a secondary task. They delegate it to HR, treating it as a formality. But in reality, hiring is the soul of leadership. It cannot be delegated because no one else understands your organization as well as you do. Every personnel decision is a declaration about the future. And if you want to build a strong culture, start by consistently applying these 4 steps. Scorecard: source, select, sell. Don't just read, do it. Write out a scorecard for every position, even positions you don't need immediately. Maintain a talent pipeline like a living bloodstream. Interview structurally, not by intuition. And finally, sell with sincerity, not with tricks. You are who you hire. Good people attract good people, average people attract average people, and bad people will bring worse things. So when you change your standards in hiring, you don't just change your team, you change yourself. A young founder once told me, "Every time I hire wrong, I don't just lose money, I lose faith in my own judgment." And I told him, start over with this method. When you do it right once, you'll never want to go back to the old way. This journey doesn't promise ease. It demands discipline, patience, and honesty. You will have to learn to say no to many likable but unsuitable people. You will have to work twice as hard to find the right person instead of quickly filling a vacancy. But all that effort will give you freedom. Freedom from crises, from endless firefighting, from repeating old mistakes. When you have a team of all the right people, work becomes lighter, joy becomes more abundant, and the future becomes clearer. Every day you wake up not to solve people problems, but to create something great with them. That is the true liberation of leadership. And perhaps that is also the deepest meaning of the word WHO. It is not just a question of who, but a reminder. Start with people, and everything else will fall into place. When you walk out of the final interview room, when you sign the hiring decision with unwavering conviction, remember that you have just changed the future, not just of the company, but of everyone who will work with you. Today you just need to decide to begin. Tomorrow, you will find yourself with more time, more success, and more faith in the path you've chosen. Because after all, the world isn't changed by strategy or technology, but by the right people. The deepest impression left after closing this book isn't the techniques or models, it's the feeling of re-examining how we see people. We often believe that strategy drives the world, that technology or capital determines success or failure. But the further you go, the more you realize that everything great starts with humble but right people. No one is useless. There are only people placed in the wrong positions. And there are no failing organizations, only organizations that don't know who to choose to journey with. This book teaches us that the right person isn't someone perfect, but someone with a fit between competence and context, between values and culture. The best people aren't just good at working, they're good at living with others. They carry within them the ability to make everything around them better. And if you are a leader, that is your job, to find them, protect them, and let them shine. Perhaps we once thought hiring was HR's job, but in truth, it's the job of everyone who wants to do something meaningful. Every time we choose someone to act, we are shaping our own future. You are who you hire, and through each decision, you rewrite the essence of the organization you belong to. But this book doesn't just talk about how to choose people, it also poses a bigger question. Are we, ourselves, A players in our own lives? Are we living by our personal scorecards, those goals that truly make us proud? Or are we just doing the work others set for us? Do we have the courage to say no to comfort and find where we truly belong? An organization that finds the right people is a living organization. A person who finds their right place is a free person. And sometimes, the only difference between these two things is honesty. Honesty to recognize who fits, and honesty to recognize where we ourselves stand. So the lesson isn't just for leaders, it's for anyone standing at life's crossroads. When you know who should accompany you, you'll feel less lost. When you know who shouldn't be kept, you'll feel less burdened. And when you know who you want to become, you'll feel less afraid. The world out there is full of methods, tools, data, but what truly moves everything are people. Those who dare to choose, dare to trust, dare to act. Are you ready to start with who for your own journey? Look around your team, your friends, the people you share dreams with. If you had to start over tomorrow, who would you keep by your side? And if you yourself were chosen by others, would you be worthy of that trust? Perhaps the final question this book leaves us with is, who will * you become in the story where you are recruiting yourself?